Hello and welcome to Crossing Bridges Talk Show. I'm your host, Larry Montgomery Sr., and my co host is on the other line doing co producer work. And so I want to welcome everyone. I want to thank you for coming. This week, we're going to talk about some political things first, and then maybe some other things some family things that some of you may be experiencing and not realize that there's probably a different way to handle them, and this little house cleaning or whatever. But it should be fun and interesting. Last week we talked about Texas and the potential or considering seceding from the United States, from the Union. Which was very interesting. I'm not sure if we talked about it on the show or after the show, but we did spend a lot of time talking about it. Over this week, there's been some things in the news that have happened. I'm not really up to on all of them, but we'll find out what my co-host has on his plate. Another thing that I want to quickly mention is that in the coming weeks, we are going to launch a podcast. And that podcast will be under the heading of Crossing Bridges Talk Show. It'll probably be hold on one second here. Let me do this. Hello.
Hello.
How you doing today?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. Will should be back in about a second. I was just getting started and kind of mentioning some things. Did we talk about Texas succeeding last week on the air, or was that off air?
It was on air, and then we got redirected to the topic of this show. So it was on air.
Okay. So I did some research, so we can just kind of clean that up and move forward from there.
Okay. You want to wait till Will gets on before we
back in about any second now, because I'm sure since he got you, he's just redialing back. We're going to put together a podcast from this show.
Okay.
Which is on. You know anything about podcasts?
No.
Me either. So it'd be real new.
Okay.
But I think we'll be on another platform because podcasts they're like radio shows as far as what I understand. I might be totally wrong. I'm not sure if you can also use video. I'm sorry?
Oh, hang on one second. Will sent me the link, but I've already got it.
I got him here. Hold on. Hey, you're back. Okay. So this is Three Musketeers today.
I'm back. Thanks, Will. I found it right after I told you I didn't have it.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about Texas and the process of seceding from the Union.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's put everybody back on the hot plate. Mm-hmm. Who was for Texas succeeding and who wasn't?
I don't think anybody was for it. We brought it up as if I recall correctly, a counterpoint to another point as an example. But what my position was that they have already began looking into it and have took steps to move in that direction. And for that reason and that reason alone, I think that they had already measured the probability of being successful in that effort.
Okay. Will, did you have an opinion on that?
Yeah, to respond to your question, I don't think anybody was for Texas seceding. We just said that if they're talking about it, that can be a problem for the U.S. as a whole because of the resources that they have and what they mean in their location and so forth and so on. But I don't think anybody on the panel was saying, go Texas, secede, So I just want to clarify that real quick.
Okay.
Right.
All right. And I think I was pretty much firm that it wasn't going to work out well if they decided to try to do that.
Mhm.
Right.
Okay. Now, from my research, there were a couple of things that were very interesting. Number one was the motive behind it. And number two would have been the fact that there's actually a history of Texas succeeding. Okay. So let's go with the motive first. The motive that I think I brought to the table, but also this is what I found out, is that because Texas has been a Republican dominated state for the last 20 some odd years, they were clearly behind former President Trump and the issue of being the big steal or the big lie, however you want to put it. Even though in their own state, they could not prove that there was a big steal. Okay, so we'll just put that there. But my point was, it's a political motive, not an economic one, not a one of security or the pandemic or anything like that. They're just clearly politics. You know, and politics is like the wind. It blows this way today, it blows that way tomorrow. It doesn't matter. It's going to blow. Now, the history, which I found out that this wasn't the first time that this conversation has come up, and they have tried to succeed before. Remember that, I'm sure you know that Texas was a republic before it came into the Union, before the Civil War. Okay. And because of the Civil War, they were on one side and everybody else, the non-Southern states, were on the other side. The northern states won. The Union won. Okay, so they were interested in coming in. Then the war broke out. They had been accepted in. War broke out. They lost. Whatever. Then the conversation was, okay, from Texas perspective, are we in or not in? Because during the war, we were not in our minds, because we were against this. But as far as the Constitution and the Supreme Court was, you never left, because you can't leave. No conversation in the Constitution about leaving, only documented statements as to joining. The conversation that was held at that time, because Texas, excuse me, was interested in having this, we're going to leave, whatever. You could divide Texas into as many as 5 separate states. That was the conversation. The union will allow you to do that, but you can't leave. So fast forward to nowadays, who's it, Wes? Is he the governor?
I don't know.
Okay, one of these guys, one of the big politicians down here, he may be the senator or whatever, but he's bringing the issue up again about succeeding. And the way the articles have read is that he misunderstood. He ain't saying that he misquoted. He's saying that something was coming out of his mouth and he wasn't understanding what was coming out of his mouth. Okay. You can divide into up to 5 states, but you can't leave. Okay. So back to the underlying issue. Leave for what? At the same time, back before the Civil War, when the South was trying to leave the Union, that's when the war broke out. You can't leave. So your option is, we can fight, you could get beat up and give up, or we could fight and we just take you over, period. You can't leave. So there was a fight, they lost, and then no one said anything else about the issue. Even the Supreme Court did not come back and say You tried to leave, you can't leave. Too bad. They just left it alone. No documentation, no laws were written, no constitutional amendments or anything like that. Just leave the conversation alone. And so this is where Wes was coming from. Oh, well, we left and we no. As far as everybody else is concerned, you didn't leave because it didn't happen. We didn't have to make a decision on that. We already told you can't leave. We went to war. You lost, so you're here. Is that clear?
What's clear is your opinion of another state's situation. What I heard and what I've observed was not the ramblings of an incompetent politician. This was a full effort by more than one politician on the behalf of a state. So I'm not sure what all research you did, but it sounds like we're talking about two slightly different things. For someone in a different state to hear of it possibly getting to the House floor, a vote on secession, is not one politician making a comment that he didn't know what he was talking about.
Well,
Additionally,
go on.
Additionally, the Civil War, what you said, it did go that way. However, had the South won, then they would be two different countries. They would have seceded from the Union.
Had they won.
Right, but what the way you worded what you said was they couldn't, they can't, and that wasn't the case. They fought so they could. They just happened to not win. I don't think it will go the same way should a situation like that occur, which I hope it does not. But at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is that Texas is able to secede if it really wants to. And the United States as a whole can't force Texas to stay. They can try to influence them or encourage them to stay, but they can't force them to do it.
Oh, now there's a problem. Because what I just said, which is clear, you can do whatever you want, Texas, but if you try to succeed, you're going to have a problem. Now,
Right.
we've already demonstrated to you that when you tried to do it, there was a problem. You got your beat down and you had to give up and give in. So now you want to try it now again? My opinion on that statement right there is now try it again. I don't think it's going to go well. Because there's more at stake now than there was back 250 years ago.
Not really. It's the same thing.
Well,
it's resources.
Can I say something?
Sure.
You're right. It was a problem back then. They did lose, but today it's a whole different animal where you can lose a war just on social media. I mean, it's you got too many people watching and seeing what happened. Back then there was no CNN or MSNBC with cameras videotaping everything, having their reporters at the battle lines videotaping everything, people being able to stream it to their phone and all this other stuff. So when you factor that into a possible war against people that were former Americans, it doesn't play well. And if you don't have the support of the people, if the people say, you know what, Texas wants to leave, let them leave, and you do something anyway without the support of the people, then it becomes an internal problem. And then you just incentivize other states to leave because they're saying, well, you didn't want to listen to Texas and Texas had to leave, and then now you're not listening to us. So now we want to leave. And then you're slowly dwindling your support. And that's what you need for everybody to be unanimous. If you're going to go, that's why the Congress has to vote on wars. They have to sit down and say, okay, this is what we want to do. Yeah, if the president declare, excuse me, if the president declares war, it has to be, pretty much sanctioned by the Congress. If it's not, then the president has a problem.
Well, war might not be the best word to describe this. The other point would be you can leave, but you can't leave legally. Now, go back to the word war. Will there be a conflict? Yes. Will it be all-out war? Maybe not day one. But the U.S. is not going to, the federal government is not going to allow states to just break off and go their own way and still have a relationship. They're going to have to make a point. Now, it may not be all-out war day one. It may just be what they call a political war or an economic war, more so economic than politics, because we want to get your attention, we want to get it quickly, and we want to do it without disrupting or engaging in a whole social media battle, put it that way. I personally don't think that is anything that's going to happen. In my research, the point that was made was that the legislation that they're proposing is got little chance of succeeding, which is probably realistic, because again, this is all based on politics. And again, the one who's standing there complaining, well, there was a big steal, you could not even prove it in your own state, much less stand there and have a conversation about what other states, other sovereign states have done or didn't do. So now it's just, well, let's just get these few who are standing there raising this flag out, as opposed to having this whole big conversation of political battle, economic battle with people in the state who just, look, I'm just trying to live my life. I don't want anything more on my plate than what I got. That's my thought.
I'm confused at so it sounds like from the angle you're coming from is America or the United States is like a dictatorship and they can control the members of itself at their whim.
Would not be the word I'd want to use.
Well, you're saying like they don't have a free will to do as they wish, which is like the foundation of the United States. If we want to be Republican or whatever, we have the right to do it as a part of this republic.
It's a democracy, not a republic.
No, sir. It is a republic.
And to this republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible.
One nation under God.
And to this republic. And to this
republic. It's not a democracy. They say that all the time, but it's not a democracy. It's actually a democratic republic.
Okay, let's leave it there. Now let's get back to the issue at hand. Succeed or not succeed, or get your butt kicked, and then wish you had not even opened your mouth and said, let's succeed.
That sounds like bully talk. They have the right. They have the right to do it.
That might exactly what is talked about behind the scenes. No one is going to come out and tell them that to their face. But
I'm sure they tell them that as many times as they can. They don't want. Texas is full of resources. The United States does not want to lose that. We all agree. But what the whole premise of this discussion was that this is what they did, and I don't think that my personal opinion is they didn't go at it haphazardly. They thought it through. They checked with whatever external resources they would need to be successful in this endeavor, and they did that. And now they're talking about it, and they're planning on voting on it or whatever step they're at currently. That's all I'm saying. Whether it's right or wrong in whoever's eyes, that's subject to your opinion. All I stated was that this is what's happening.
Can I say something? because
Sure.
on both sides, they're pretty much both being bullies if you think about it. Because if I'm going to threaten to leave the union, is to force something to change. That's a bully tactic. Just like in response, them saying you can't leave because we're bigger than you, or we'll shut you down, we'll do this, that, and the other. That's another bully tactic. So you got two bullies,
But we don't
and
know. We don't know if the United States. We don't know if the United States said that in response.
no,
We're
I'm just saying, like,
theorizing that that's what they're
yeah,
saying. We only know that Texas said we want to get out of here.
in theory, I'll correct that. In
Um,
theory, you have two bullies because one is saying that they're wanting to leave.
well,
The other half doesn't want them to leave. So the options that were presented were pretty much bully technique.
I understand the characterization. Dictatorship was thrown out there, bullies thrown out there. Let's back up a little bit. Texas was a republic in the beginning. It decided it wanted to join the Union for whatever reason. Then when they got in, they realized that this whole slave thing was going to be an issue. They decided this is where we stand, that's where you stand. We're not happy about that. And there was a family fight. Okay? They lost. At that moment in time, they could have simply said, I'm out. May have been another conversation. I don't know. But they didn't. And every other state that was on that side of the issue stayed and didn't say anything about leaving. So now we're here. As far as the federal government was concerned, we already cut the deal. You want to be in? Okay, you're in. No one said anything about getting out until time passed. So now here we are. We had the war, you lost. You didn't say anything else. The federal government sent, I believe it was I can't say it was a constitutional amendment or however they put it. This was documented. We're all here, one family again. Okay. Now 150 whatever years later, because of some political issue, you want to step up here and say, oh, I'm out. And matter of fact, in the conversation, Texas didn't say we want out. They said specifically, if all of the Republican states want to leave, we should be able to leave. First off, that's total lunacy because there's no guarantee. There's no guarantee at the next election, your state is still going to be Republican. That's number one. So even if you have a referendum and people got out and voted and said what they really wanted to say, no one's going to say that there was another big steal, but okay, fine. Your people said, all us Democrats want to go with you Republicans and leave the Union. That ain't going to happen. So now you've got an internal battle with the public and an external battle with the Congress as to, well, we want to leave because of politics. The only reason you are in charge of the state right now is because of politics. We have a democratic process. So what do you want to have? Your cake and eat it too? You want to have a democratic process, which when you decide you're not happy about it, doesn't work for you. Or you want to have a democratic process so you can say whatever you want to say. You want to leave? I'm leaving. That wasn't the deal. So I'm saying, short of being an all-out war day one, there'll probably be some pound of flesh that's going to be passed between Texas, Louisiana, and the federal government as to, well, we want to convince you that you might want to reconsider that decision. That's what I'm saying.
I would agree with most of what you said.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the United States would do, like I said, anything they could do or everything they should do to convince or encourage or incentivize Texas to stay. But the original point remains, they have the right to do it, and they were looking into doing it. They could be bluffing.
See, that's the
They could be.
They don't have the right to do that. I just
They do that. They
in
do
the
because it's not a
Constitution, it does
dictatorship.
not
This is a
address-
membership.
in the Constitution. It does not address secession. It addresses joining.
Right.
That
So
issue.
if you don't legislate leaving, how can you tell somebody they can't do it?
Then
You can only tell somebody they can't
No.
do it if Texas agreed that this is the entrance and this is the exit, and they address it.
that.
If
was
I
my
come up with a spaceship right now, you can't tell me how. You can't legislate it until everyone comes together and agrees on it.
Wait.
Until then, I can operate how I want to.
That is exactly the point. What we're saying here is that yes, the document, the Constitution says you can join. Doesn't say anything about you can leave. Now the question is, well, we could legislate whatever we want. Okay, so they're bringing it through the process. The overall.
So Texas is making these legal moves with no merit whatsoever. They have absolutely no right to say we don't want to participate in this. That's your statement.
That's exactly what it's saying. If they want to legislate to change that to include or the rules on seceding, yeah, that's a process, and that's what they're going through now. The overall thinking is that you're cutting me off before I finish my point. The overall feeling is that it's not going to succeed. That legislation is not going to be passed, mainly because
according to
they decide to do it. Any other state, such as all the Republican states, could say, well, hey, we out too. That would destroy the union and would cripple the union. And that would be a major problem for all of those Democrats in those Republican states, because you're not going to be able to force people to continue to stay in your state when it's only run by Republicans under Republican rule. That's not how this place works. It's a democracy. We can agree to disagree. When you win, you win. When I win, I win. Okay? That's the only way it works. You can try any other way you want. They try it in China. They try it in Russia. They try it all in Africa, all over. They try it the way they want to try it. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying that. But right now is what we got.
So I'm going to try to sum up what you're saying. After all that, what you said, you're saying that Texas is operating illegally in the secession move.
If they try to succeed without the legislation being changed, it would be illegal. That's what I'm saying.
That's not true. That point right there is not true. The word secession is in there for a reason. They have named this thing. They have named this thing.
It's not in there.
Okay.
How about this, right?
Okay, where'd it come from?
Hold on, because
You're gonna
I think we should take some time and probably look this up, do some research, and then we can dive into this a little more, because right now I would like to be able to say yeah and nay, but I'm on the fence. I'm just listening, and it's very good conversation. Don't get me wrong. It is very good conversation, but I would like to be able to say, okay, I'm looking at this stuff, and this person is hitting some key points, and this person's hitting some key points, and it's either making sense or it's not making any sense. What do y'all think about that?
I would like to say this today. At the end of the day, I don't live in Texas. That's for them to figure out. That's for them to figure out with the United States. Again, this was a side point to something else that we were talking about. And the only thing I was trying to say was, I don't think that they would make it the information of what moves are being made wouldn't have arisen to this level where people around the country are hearing about it if it had no merit whatsoever, if it had no validity.
No, that's not a really fair statement. I mean, it's an important issue. Obviously, it's a Texas issue. The timing of it and the fact that it's getting some legs in its running doesn't mean it's going to be successful, but it is something to think about because people do have options. They do. But under the way this country is run, we're a country of laws. Okay. And I'm not saying it's perfect. Don't get me over there. But in this particular situation, the law is clear, or not clear because it's not addressing that specific issue. And in order for it to address that issue, the law has to be approved. And even if it's approved, doesn't mean that, they're actually going to do it. It might take 4 or 5 years by the time that something like that's approved. And it may be a whole new political regime in. We'll just scrap it. Who knows? But anyway, based on what's happening in the world and what's happening in this country, I don't think people are going to focus on that very long. Something that's just
Okay.
beyond thought. It's like moving a mountain with a toothpick.
Well, I'll say this to that. Texas is thinking about it, and the United States is thinking about it. So it's not that far beyond thought. But I would like to say this too. They're going to do what they're going to do, and I don't think it's going to affect me. But there is another topic I would like to address. Once we're finished, once you're finished with this point right here, I'd like to bring up another topic that's off of this topic.
Okay, go.
All right. Last week or the week before, I don't recall, we shared a video of Dr. Umar Johnson speaking about President Biden, and I want to know if you had saw the video.
I didn't see it, but I'm willing to listen.
Okay. Well, the situation was this. Dr. Umar Johnson came on a show called The Breakfast Club, and he was directly directing his comments towards the Biden administration, especially President Biden, about the fact that he came on that same show while he was campaigning and said, quote, and I may mess this up, but the quote was something very close to these words I'm saying right now, which was, "You're not black if you don't vote for me." So, no, I'm serious. It's easily findable. I may be.
Can I help you out a
words.
little bit?
Go ahead.
You finished, Larry?
No,
I'm trying to
no.
help him out with what he's saying, and then I'll digress. What he said was, if you don't know if you're for me or for Trump, then you ain't black. That was his words.
Thank you.
Back to you, Larry.
Okay.
So he came on the show, and this is like the number one radio show in the country. He came on there, he said that, and then Dr. Johnson goes on to say that day one he put in an executive order for transgenders, and he went on to help other groups, but he has not done anything for Black Americans. He has not done anything about this police issue that Black Americans are facing with the violence towards them. And he said, look, you got, you came to the Black community asking for help when you wanted help. And now we don't have anything against what you've done for other people, but where's our executive orders? Where's our support? Where's our thank you for doing our part of this deal that you struck with Black America? And I thought it was very profound. Now, he went on and said a bunch of other things, which I agree with. But the main thing is, as Biden supporters look at the Black Americans that are Biden supporters that put their support behind him, what are their thoughts about everyone else getting presidential preferential treatment and support, and Black people are not?
Okay. Can I respond, or what do you want to?
Sure. Please respond.
I got 2 points to make. They're short. First off, and I've said this many times, I say this the rest of my life. We stand around here and wait or ask or demand the government to do something for us. That's us. You know, everybody else.
I didn't hear what you said. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I didn't hear what you said.
If we stand around here and wait for the government to do for us what we can do for ourselves, we're just wasting our time. Everybody else, every other ethnic group has figured it out. Do what you got to do for you, and the government will come along whenever it feels like it. Now, that's number one. Number two, whatever Biden is doing right now, the only thing I can see him doing, because I'm not looking at his executive orders, is he's done the one thing that most of these other people have not done. He put his money where his mouth is. He put Black people in positions that they never had before. Not that we weren't capable, but he was the first one to step up and say, I recommended so-and-so. I recommended so-and-so. I hired so-and-so, whatever. People of color are there. Now, what we do when we get in that position, I'm gonna have to do that, because time and time again over my life, Black people stand out there talking about, yeah, Black power, Black power. I need a job, Black power, Black power. I need money, Black power, Black power. And as soon as they get something, well, who you? What you want me to do? I just got a job. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I'm saying, look, really, if you're going to be an advocate, be an advocate. If you want a job, damn it, just say you want a job. Don't stand there and tell me that you want to represent me and help me when all you're looking for is to put some money in your pocket. But anyway, that's not the issue.
I'm confused as to the question I'm asking and the response I'm getting. I'm confused.
Well, my point to what you said was, I'm not, excuse me, I voted for Biden for reasons other than what he was going to do for me. Okay?
What?
I voted for him because I felt that he could do a better job than the one that we had.
Wait, hang on, Dad. You voted for...
You do a better job.
Okay, wait. I want to understand what you just said. You voted for the president for other reasons than what he could do for you.
Yeah. That's why I voted for him.
Okay.
Because I've seen many presidents come along. I've even seen a Black president come by twice, and I'm still waiting to see what he did for me. So me standing here, it's just my opinion.
I'm good.
It's just my opinion. No,
I agree. I agree. I agree. That's what I'm saying.
I'm a practical person. When I feel it on my foot, then I know it's on my foot. You could talk about in the atmosphere. You could talk about in the wind. You could talk about all that kind of stuff. You could talk about what you're going to do, what you try to do. Whatever. I understand that. But right now, I'm over the mind of, if I don't feel it on my foot, it didn't happen.
All right. I agree.
Can I jump in there?
Yeah.
Can I jump in there? Because both of y'all made some great points. Not pretty good, great points. What Dad was saying about needing the government for help and all that stuff, that's 100% what our mentality should be. The other thing what Larry's trying to point out was that the promises of that's being projected out there, that this guy was going to do stuff to help Black people, is one, whether it's not from you, I know you didn't vote for him for that reason, but other people voted for him because of that reason. They thought that he was going to do stuff for Black people, and in that aspect, he has not fulfilled that mission that they put him on. You were looking for different stuff, I understand that, but those people that voted for him to do stuff for Black people, they have been let down and led astray.
Well, I would say that he hasn't gotten everything done that they think or thought he was going to do as of yet. That's all I'm saying.
Here's the thing, though. He has 100 days. He has 100
Can I
days.
jump in there?
Just give me, because I'm gonna touch that one. I think you about to mention.
Okay,
Because
go for it.
they just did an executive order for Asian, the assault on Asian people, but they haven't done one yet for the police brutality yet. He hasn't done an executive order for that, and it's like, okay, so these people were under assault for about a year, but we've been under assault for how many decades and stuff like that. But your first day in office, you do something for transgenders, and I mean, the pen didn't run out of ink. I mean, to my understanding, you signed a bunch of executive orders, and none of them was for police brutality against Black Americans.
Okay, good point. And if he did sign something that we didn't hear about, great. But okay, we ain't heard about it, so that's always suspect.
Dad, it would be on the news if he did something for us. It would be all over. They would be trumpeting it all over. It would be people against it. It would be people for it. He's not doing it. He has no interest in doing it because he would have did it. He had interest in the transgender agenda, and he made that known by signing the executive order on the first day.
Listen,
the first day, how could you let somebody else know that this is a priority to me? Besides doing it, the first thing you came in and you sit down at the desk and sign that. That's number one on your priority.
I'm not going to dispute that, but I am going to say this. First off, it ain't over. Secondly,
right?
I don't care who you are. Your first day on the job, you don't take on the boss.
He is the boss.
No.
He is the boss.
Is the boss when you got a job. You working for somebody.
He's working for us, the people that voted him in.
Fine.
And he is not taking on the boss. He's not supporting the boss. He turned his back on the boss.
You don't. Wait a minute now. There's the boss and then there's the boss. All right. This issue of racism is the boss. Okay.
I'm sorry, I missed that. You said
there's the boss and then there's the boss.
Mm-hmm.
This issue of racism is the boss. Okay.
Okay.
Now, first day on the job, I'm not taking on the boss.
Okay.
I got to figure out how.
But you was playing with the boss on your way into office.
The one thing I can say that he has taken on, he's changed the tone. He's taken on major task, okay? And I'm just going to say, look, if he does for me, great. If he doesn't, it was expected because everybody else before him, the same thing. They said they were going to do something. Okay. We supported them. They got in. They forgot about us.
Okay, hang on. With that point right there. So what was your problem with Trump? If Biden is doing the same thing as every other president, what was your problem with Trump? You should expect the same thing from him, right?
My problem with Trump was it was his election to lose, and he lost it because he didn't have a plan. Stood there and talked about, well, what do you talk about? Everything else under the sun, except, well, this is what I'm going to do going forward.
I disagree.
Wait. Let me make this last little piece.
Okay.
He did say he had a health care plan, but then when he opened his mouth and said, I'm not going to let it out until after the election, he cut his throat right there in front of everybody. You are the president of the United States, and you got the nerve to stand there and tell me you're going to bully me into voting for you? I vote for you because I believe in you, and not because I'm scared of you. Damn it, I got a shotgun too, fool.
Dad, that's the same thing Biden did. That's the same thing. I just explained. He bullied Black people into voting for him, and they do nothing for him. It's the same thing.
I don't know who he blasted because I didn't hear nothing like that. I heard that you made earlier. Somebody saying, "Well, if you Black, you should be voting for me."
Dad, he said it himself. It's not someone. It's not hearsay or third party. He said it himself.
Okay. He said it.
Number one. No, that's not number one. Number one was I want to go back to you said that when Trump was up for re-election, he wasn't doing anything or whatever. He had, I believe, now you can correct me if I'm wrong, Will, you're here too. He had the greatest turnout of support in history, that being Mr. Trump.
The
Right?
greatest Republican turnout? Yeah.
No. In numbers, he had the greatest turnout.
Republican turnout in history.
Okay, so he had to do something to get that.
Not
Right?
necessarily.
So he didn't do anything.
You forget who the boss is.
Who's the racism?
Yeah.
Okay, so how come he didn't win if racism is the boss?
Well, what you got to say?
Okay. Let's get ready to rumble. No, I'm just playing. But
I'll leave that right there.
But I'm gonna just bring up this point, right? Okay, so the current president had the most votes ever in any election ever possible, right?
Right.
But when you look at when the previous president was making addresses to the nation, he was having 30, 40, 60, well, I ain't gonna say 60, like 30 or 40 million people viewing his addresses,
Who
right?
you talking about?
Trump. Like when he addressed the nation, he was getting 30, 40 million viewers, when he addressed the country. And he didn't have 80 million votes. He had 74 million, right? That's what we're going with. 80 million versus 74 million.
Mm-hmm.
But when Mr. President Biden had his thing the other day, he had a measly like 19 million, but he's supposed to be he had the most numbers ever in any election. He can't command 30 million people to watch his address, and he's the most important man ever.
I appreciate you bringing that point up. It just doesn't rise to the level of what we're talking about. That's all.
I mean,
it's not, but it just doesn't rise to the level of what we're talking about.
It does, because you mentioned that this guy was the man, but he's not doing stuff that he said he was going to do.
No, I talked about why I voted for him.
Yeah, I know that, but you said that also that people loved him. You know what I'm saying? He had the best turnout. He had the best turnout ever. You did reference that in the past, and I'm trying to let you know that if that's the case, he had 8 million people, but his first address, he can't get more than 20 million people to come listen to him speak.
That wasn't his first address. That was his first address to Congress. And secondly, his first address was watched by damn near everybody. So now I don't understand your point.
Okay, well, I mean, I didn't see either one, so.
But anyway, basically this. Listen, if I believe in you, I don't have to stand there and watch you all day long. I believe in you that you're doing it. You have the skill set, you have the experience. Okay, you came across with the right personality. So personally, I'm saying, okay, go and do your job. I'm with you. Now, at the end of the day, as Larry is saying, right, at this moment in time, he hasn't lived up to the marquee. Okay, I understand that, because I've been disappointed all along ever since.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean that he was not the right person for this moment in time. That I have to say that. That doesn't mean he's not the right person. And finally, we have a responsibility for ourselves that we are constantly advocating to someone else. Well, I elected you to do. Elected me to do what? Your job?
Hang on there. Hey, you covered a couple of things. I'd like to respond.
Okay.
One, earlier you said that people need to do for themselves, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. Now, when these people it was 5 big cases of police brutality and killings under Joe Biden's watch, right? How could these people have come together and stop that?
These people who? You mean the Congress?
The victims.
The victims.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the question you really want to ask?
That's the question I have asked. Your premise was, that people have to do for themselves first. So I'm asking you, how in those 5 instances,
Let me
how
give
could they
you.
have done for themselves?
I give you an example.
Okay.
Okay, then you can use that for whatever you might think it's worth. Right
Okay.
here in Nassau County,
Mhm.
we have an imbalance of white police officers to black police officers. The county is made up of 10% black. Okay, you would think that after a couple hundred years of existence, that at least there'd be 10% black officers on the police department. It's
Mhm.
not. It's not. We have had 2 or 3 black police commissioners. Okay.
Mhm.
Have they done anything to impact that disparity? Let me answer that for you. No. So I go back to my point before. Oh, I'm here to represent y'all. We need this and we need that. Oh, I got a job. What you want me to do? I just work here.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair. Let me ask you this.
Mhm.
On that same note, what did the Asians do to get this executive order?
Well, they sure enough didn't burn any rice.
But what did they do? Did they do more than? Did they do anything more than what black people have done? Have they marched? Have they been bitten by dogs? Had they had the water, fire hydrants turned on them, or did they just complain and then they got a executive order?
8 billion people with dollars, yen in their hands that we want to continue to do business with.
Wait a minute, Dad. That's not fair because the black community spends $2 trillion a year. They make everybody rich. They're spending more money than the Asians. So that's not a valid point.
1.8 billion people to 35 million. We got as much money as they got.
Dad, you're talking about people in a different country. I'm talking about people in this country.
Yeah.
This country.
Right.
A handful of attacks, warrants, and executive order for a certain group of people where there are decades of outright abuse, and you call on the abused people to put you into office and you don't say nothing?
He wrote an executive order for transgenders. How many you think they got of those?
Not as many as black people.
Right. So what are you complaining about?
You're the president of the United States, of everybody, of the 320 million people. You are focusing on a small group, a small subset of a group.
Point of order. We're talking over each other, and I can't hear either one of you guys when y'all talking like that. So I understand you got a lot to say, Larry, but if you ask a question, please let Dad answer. And Dad, it's going back and forth, and I don't know if this is beneficial to our viewers at the moment.
Well, I think you're right. And that's one of the issues that I wanted to talk about today. Now we're down to almost 7 minutes. So Larry, did you want to make a last point?
I think that there are many different ways to look at any particular issue. I think that as long as politics is politics, we'll always have something to talk about. I think that I think it's glaring that the current president, has extended an olive branch to many other groups, but has up until this point turned a blind eye to a significant issue and group that has contributed to everything, including the foundation of this country. I think that is something we need to keep an eye on.
Well, I agree. And I want to say this, not, to be judgmental or whatever, but we've been keeping that same eye on folks for almost 400 years. We ain't seen nothing yet. And we still talking about keep your eye on them. Some days you're going to wake up and just say, look, if I don't do it, it just ain't going to get done. I keep saying that. If you don't do it, it ain't going to get done. We can complain about everybody else. They got it done. Somebody did it for them. We're the only ones sitting here talking about when you're going to do for me.
Right. But those other people didn't have to ask for long. They didn't have to suffer as long. And if other people could get it, why not us? Why do
Well,
we have to look crazy for saying stop killing us?
but I think we need to start wrapping it up. Everybody's made some great points. Larry, you identifying that the president ain't fulfill his promises, and the comment that Dad made about not depending on the government. I think that is the greatest thing that every Black person can do for themselves is not depend on the government, because as you can see, they let us down all the time. But as we increase our wealth, the government will be looking for us and asking us, what do we need? But instead of us asking them to help us out.
Well, listen, it's not a problem asking. I'm just saying, look, when you're going to figure this out? You keep asking, you don't get an answer. You want it? Go do it.
Mm-hmm.
We're not happy with Biden. We're not happy with Trump, because we ain't getting what we think we're supposed to get. Go get it. Or stop asking.
Well, that's what Texas was doing, and you had a problem with that.
No, because they were doing it illegal.
Yes. That's not illegal.
We're going back. We're going backwards. Okay. Everybody made valid points.
We're going to close out the show, and then we'll still be online. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Wait. Got some admin notes.
Sure.
Admin. For our viewers out there, we appreciate you viewing. If you have any comments on different topics that you would like us to talk about, please hit us in the comment box. We appreciate your viewership and hope to see you again in the future.
Next week, we'll be talking about, I don't know yet, but join us and see. Until then, God bless.
God
See
bless.
you next week, as long as the creek don't rise.
Amen.